Are you an Indiana Jones fan?
No.
Does Dial of Destiny feel like an Indiana Jones movie?
Yes.
Do you think Dial of Destiny was made to be a success, a people pleaser?
Yes.
No. Did you like it? Yeah.
No.
After a couple of months, will you remember this film?
Yes.
No. Let the intro roll. With our eyes, we can only see so far. With our bodies, we can only live one life. Agora is a moment to sit back, live only in the heart, laugh at jokes, cry at night. Let's gather at the square of the sun, discuss the done and undone, the day and night, the relevant.
Hello. Welcome to the fourth episode of Agora, the film podcast. Here I have my co-host Nuno Abreu.
Hello.
I am Aristotle Chrysos. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the new Indiana Jones film, Dial of Destiny, directed by James Mangold. So, Nuno, tell me, what's your opinion about Dial of Destiny and what's your relationship with the Indiana Jones films?
So, I've only watched Raiders of the Lost Ark out of the four, but I did some research on the plot of the others, so I was ready to watch this film. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was a good film, I would say. I think it brought a fresh message, but I think it sacrificed Indiana Jones as a character to get there. So, I don't know if it was the right business decision. I think if they really wanted to go in that direction, they should have been more subtle. But as a non-Indiana Jones fan, I thought it was okay. I liked it. Well, what do you think?
So I have watched the original Indiana Jones trilogy as a kid. I remember liking the second and the third one a lot. They felt exciting and intriguing, and you really felt as if you discovered those, extraordinary places alongside Indiana Jones. However, I rewatched the Raiders of the Lost Ark some months ago, and I thought it was very boring. I respect what the series has done to the industry, but honestly, I can't see the original installment with the same eyes. I have not watched the fourth movie, or at least I don't remember doing so. About Dial of Destiny, the movie is okay, or fair. Those words summarize the film the best.
Yeah, so jumping into the review itself, I thought the directing was okay. It feels like an Indiana Jones film, which is good, thanks to the music and the settings, and he did a good job bringing Jones to the 60s. I wish that it didn't drag as much in the first half, but I really liked how the third act came together. I think it justified some weird choices they made in the beginning. Overall, visually and craft-wise, this is what you would expect from an Indiana Jones film. He doesn't bring anything new to this area. The visual effects were quite good, and the de-aging didn't bother me.
So moving to directing, I do think we have a director on a list. We're talking about a very experimental and stylistic director who, however, seems to respect the established principles of the series a little bit too much. I don't think the direction innovated in any way compared to the previous movies. Nonetheless, the action is fun and it is well directed, and the director makes sure of getting decent performances out of his actors. But I would say, even though the director tries to make the film feel exciting, it's not. It's quite boring. Most of the movie is non-stop action, either fight scenes or chases. The movie has like at least 6 chase sequences, if not more. And now, I will sound very weird, but I don't like chase sequences and movies that are non-stop action. It tires me a lot, feels mind-numbing. Chase scenes in particular always make me disconnect from the story. By the way, this is the reason why I still have not watched any John Wick movie.
Well, okay. Yeah, John Wick is very action-oriented. I think you should give it a go. It's good.
I think that I will like John Wick's movies, or at least I won't get bored out of them. But we shall see. Maybe when John Wick 5 comes out. Now on visuals, the movie is kind of a CGI fest. I wish they utilized more practical effects and stunts. It just does not feel the same, especially for a film with a budget of $250 million. I have to say that the D8 technology is actually very believable. I think they handle it very smartly by shooting the D8 Harrison Ford scene at night, so the dark can hide the imperfections. Moreover, I think in general the photography is up to the standards of what a modern Hollywood blockbuster looks like. So I will talk also about sound since you mentioned the audio design. No issues with the sound design. I think the soundtrack is great. It is well made and epic. It's John Williams, after all. If only they played the main theme a little bit more. I think they played it only 4 times in 140 minutes of runtime movie. Like, maybe that's way too little for the last movie of the series. If I remember correctly, the first movie just spams the main theme. Like, 20 minutes of the movie is like the main theme. I expected that, and I was quite disappointed that we didn't get that. Should I talk about the story and the plot, or would you like to start?
No, you can start.
Okay, so I think this is the weakest part of the movie. I think the movie is simply not well written. It contains only the very basic ingredients of Indiana Jones films, and it does not offer anything else. Indiana Jones is okay, Indy's companions are okay, at best, the bad guy is okay, everything is just okay. The story does not feel like it has real stakes, or that there are consequences. Like, minor spoilers, Indiana Jones, because of his cockiness, leads to the death of a very good friend of his, and stays sad for 10 seconds, and then everyone completely forgets about it. This is not the only plot thread that the writers just did not bother continuing. The film has multiple dropped plot points. People who are going to watch the movie, they are going to mention that Indiana Jones is being chased by the police. But don't worry, they will forget about it in the second half of the movie. It doesn't matter anymore. And it is sad, since if the writing was stronger, maybe the directing of Man Cold could have worked, and we might have had a great 21st century Indiana Jones film. But the movie did not bother during the whole time. Until, and I want to highlight this, until the climax sequence. During the climax sequence, the movie finally wakes up and becomes actually exciting and intriguing. Sadly, this does not last for too long, since in the end of this particular sequence, the screenwriters made some very bad decisions, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah, but what can we do, right? Lastly, I have to admit that I like how this time they decided to dive into Greek history for obvious, subjective reasons.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree completely with you in terms of the decisions they made after the climax. I do agree the third act was the stronger part of the film, and I thought the decisions they made after it weren't that bad. I think your opinion about this film is going to depend on whether you like what they do with Indiana Jones in the beginning or not. I think Indiana Jones being in a bad form was a bold choice, and I don't know if it paid off. Not everyone is picking up on what I argue the film was trying to say, so I invite you to consider this after listening to the Agora moment. It is a bit of a disappointment that all these energized characters and characters that we look up to end up like this, and we saw this in Star Wars, for example. If it happened to Harry Potter, for instance, in the future, I would be angry, no matter the intellectual conversation the film was trying to have. But well, accepting that choice, I think the other characters were still a bit inconvenient and underlined this decision even more. The woman and the child he partners up with end up being a bit annoying, and they devaluate Jones too obviously. Again, it makes sense with the message, but is it what we want from an Indiana Jones film? I would have liked to have seen a bit more nuance there. The villain was good, and the acting was okay. I think they doubled down on these ideas instead of trying to make them more digestible. Probably they were following the director's vision. But I'd say there was potential for more in Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, for example.
The thing, Nuno, is that good ideas and themes are not enough for the writing to be classified as good. And I still think the movie is poorly written. I get that they have some nice themes and some nice ideas, but execution, in my opinion, matters a lot, especially in this case.
But what did you think of the acting and the characters?
Indiana Jones is kind of a shell of what he used to be. Many people did not like that. It did not annoy me. It makes sense. His son died, then his wife divorced him. This could be the start of him rediscovering himself through this last adventure and slowly becoming his old self that everyone loves and would die to see it one last time. But unfortunately, this never happens. He stays a sad, old, grumpy senior. The only moment the film bothers with developing his character is in the last scene, but it feels unearned and cheap, even though the scene itself is good, I would say. This actually sums up every character arc in this film. Unearned. We had the start, we had the end, but we never had the middle. This applies to character arcs, relationships between characters, with very few exceptions. Nonetheless, Harrison Ford is there and he tries his best with what he has been given. And it's quite a sight seeing him performing those stunts at such an old age. Yes, sometimes his performance in those stunts is not the best, because he's 80, but the majority of them were very solid. Indy is the only character in the film that actually has some decent and cool one-liners. Now, about Elena, the sidekick of Harrison Ford in this movie, she's very annoying, she's very sarcastic, and she's way too competitive with Indy, to the point that she becomes quite insufferable without any reason. She also has very little emotional intelligence and very little empathy, and this is her character until the end of the film, in which she has an unearned change of heart. I'm sorry, but I didn't fall for it. I still think she's a shitty human being by the end of the film.
I felt a bit of a progression in her character. I think out of all the characters, she was the one that has the best character arc, I would say. I think even Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones has a bigger arc, but you do feel some progression there. It's not very well written, it doesn't have a lot of nuance, but it's an arc.
I don't know, if I remember correctly, in the first act, she's completely manipulative and sarcastic and,
bossy, yeah.
Yeah, and then ballsy. I wouldn't say ballsy, I would say smartass. And then, as I said, one of Indiana Jones' friends dies. She has a little bit of an argument with Indiana Jones, and then she becomes a little bit less of an asshole. But I don't think that's enough.
Okay.
You don't agree with me, right?
Maybe because I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I thought it was better than it actually was. But yeah, I think it could have happened more progressively. You can realize the moment she changes her mind, and I don't know if everyone would like that.
I would say that Phoebe Waller is decent. She kind of fixes the character a little bit. I think the character on paper is way worse than what we saw on screen. So that shows maybe how decent of an actor Phoebe Waller is. I think it is the first time I see a film with her. I haven't watched...
She did a TV show called Fleabag.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Which was good.
But yeah, that's about Phoebe Waller's character. I think she was kind of unlucky to be, in my opinion, the worst written character. The kid is fine. I think it was more sufferable than Elena. Also, the kid looked way too alike to Luffy from One Piece. So every time I would see the kid, I would think Luffy from One Piece. And they kind of have similar mannerism. I don't know. I don't think they did it on purpose, but I just couldn't stop thinking about Luffy. But I think Ethan Isidore's performance was good. So, and lastly about Mads Mikkelsen, I think he plays on autopilot. He plays the same role that he played on multiple blockbuster movies. The same thing he did, I think, in James Bond. The same thing that he did on
Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts, exactly. So yeah, it's just the archetype of what a Mads Mikkelsen villain character looks like. You can just expect that. And I think the character on paper is completely flat. There is nothing about this character. Only Mads Mikkelsen auto mode performance gives character to it. And imagine he's not even interested in it. I think he's a very good actor that just didn't bother with that movie. That's about it for the movie in terms of the review. Can I add one more comment, Nuno?
Yeah, of course.
So this is like a comment that doesn't have to do with the actual review, but I will just say that if they're going to include actually Greek dialogue in their film, supposedly they have a Greek person speaking it, I think it would be a decent decision to actually hire a Greek native speaker. In this film, supposedly Greek people speak worse Greek than Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller. Yes, they speak worse Greek. I don't know how this makes sense. The Greek in the movie butchered every single word. Also, supposedly Phoebe Waller reads like a sculpture that has Greek writings on them, ancient Greek writings, and the sculpture literally has the Greek alphabet on it. And I think that was a pathetic excuse of art direction. They could just copy something from an old book. I don't know.
Yeah.
In conclusion, I would say that the movie needed more adventure, needed more puzzles, needed more moments where the characters outsmarted the situation and their enemies, and less of non-stop action.
I think it could have been more inventive in terms of the adventure and the chase. I think it was a very derivative Indiana Jones type plot.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the Agora moment. Do you want to start?
I can start because I believe what I have to say about the theme is way less nuanced, because you obviously enjoyed the movie way more than me. The theme, in my opinion, is about aging, age catching up with us, realizing that you are running out of time to fix things, and also what gives meaning to the life of the people that are aging. Seniors need to live for a family, a wife, a close friend. That gives them meaning, a reason to keep on staying in this world. In the first part of the film, Indy starts without a job, without a son, without a wife, and no one to live for. And now, major spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you are interested in it, maybe you shouldn't listen to this part. By the end, he does find a family and he gets back to his wife, reigniting his will to live. And he says a little piece of dialogue that explains the whole story arc of Indiana Jones. Because the character of Helena lives that he has to keep on living. And he says, live for whom? And I think that sums up the theme of the film. But no, tell me your take.
So I think what really made this Indiana Jones feel fresh was the message about older people, as you said. It's really frustrating to see almost everyone underestimating Indiana Jones, even more when we accompanied him through his golden days. And you can feel how it has affected him. He has kind of given up on himself. So the film paints this image of the past as a time of great adventures, and of older people as obsessed with the past, in a way. Of course, this is doubled down with Indiana Jones being an archaeologist. And I think the third act is so poignant, and it kind of excuses the choices made earlier in the film, because it makes you truly believe he would be happier staying in ancient Greece, and that he doesn't have anything worth going back for. It makes literal the thought that older people belong to ancient times, to the past, and not to the present. And I think it's even more sad that it comes from him. Having Waller-Bridge's character punch Indiana Jones just ended up feeling really good. And I'd say there's nothing woke about it. I think we just spend the film wanting to shake him, to wake him up, to take him out of the numbness. And someone needed to tell him that he was still alive as anyone else and that he belonged to the present. That bench felt like she was apologizing for making him feel he belonged to the past. But yeah, I'd say today is a time for adventures too. And it's also the responsibility of the younger people to make sure older people feel keeping up, not abandoning them in the past, but bringing them to the present. And the film in general is a take on aging, destiny, time. Look at the trio, for example, just the 3 stages of life: the child, the adult, and the older person. They could have played more with that. And yeah, and just to compliment, it's good to remember that there always needs to be a balance. So there is a lot to say about gerontocracy and how sometimes older people seem to be the ones in charge in the world. And yeah, there is a danger if society only gives merit to old people's opinions. I think to tackle an issue or to have a conversation, it's always good to have every viewpoint. No, I don't know if Indiana Jones was the right character to talk about all these questions, and I don't know if they delved into them enough to make it worth it. I think it's gonna really depend how much of an Indiana Jones fan you are, and if you liked what they did with the character from the beginning.
I see. Interesting.
So jumping to the ranking moment, is Indiana Jones 5 in your top 5 of the year?
No, but it's in my top 5 Indiana Jones films of all time.
No. Well, yeah, there are only 5. I can't rank the Indiana Jones films because I haven't watched all of them. I'm afraid it's not going to enter my top 5. And I think that's all we have for you today.
Yeah, maybe this is the first episode in which I don't like the movie. And
Oh.
no, that's wrong, because we started with The Little Mermaid, and it's not like I don't like Indiana Jones or The Little Mermaid. It's like I just didn't enjoy them that much. I just thought they were fine, and if I have to analyze them, it just makes it worse. Do you get it? So
yeah, I do, yeah.
While in your case, I think for you it gets better when you analyze them.
Yeah, if I analyze them in terms of themes and everything, I kind of gain some respect.
No, I think
for what they do.
You are just a very positive person and I'm a very negative person, so that's about it. That's why the analysis doesn't work the same. Thank you very much for staying with us until the end of this episode. We try to upload the new episode every Friday on Spotify and YouTube, and you can also find us on our official Instagram account at agora.thefilmpodcast. It was Aristotle with my co-host Nuno. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.